3, 2, 1.
So you were saying White Claws with the freezies?
Oh my god, I'm so excited for the White Claws with the freezies. Oh, yeah.
That did
so
look really good.
we like the video that you sent, we got to blend them up. And then what we should do is have like an inflatable. I just imagine this in an inflatable kiddie pool. That it's just like a hot day. You're on the lawn, inflatable kiddie pool, and then you're just sitting there with these slushies.
I sent it to you and I forgot what it was. So is it one where you put like the booze in the freezy thing, or do you put the freezies in the blender?
Yeah, you put it all with the White
Yeah,
Claw,
with the
and then you
White
blend
Claws.
it all up.
It does sound pretty nice.
Blend it all.
Look at me
up.
I'm smart for sending you guys that. That was a pretty
And then forgetting about it.
exactly.
No, but that was awesome. Like I really want to do that. I'm super, especially on today.
Yeah,
Dude,
today would be the perfect day
Dude,
for that.
if I went to the beach and I brought those, like I would have been the MVP.
You're always the
What?
MVP.
But thank you. I know, but like, damn. I also like for calories. Like freezies are only like 40 calories, so you're throwing those in already low calorie White Claws, right? Those aren't even bad for the games.
True.
Yeah,
What flavor is the White Claw?
that I brought
Yeah.
black cherry. It's not the best.
No, that doesn't
I was
sound...
I was at the beach. We went to go in the pool for a bit.
Yeah.
Or not the pool, the ocean, because beaches
Yeah, I
have
was gonna
oceans,
say.
not pools. Although I guess a beach could have a pool like separate,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
in
like Kids
English
Beach,
Bay.
English Bay.
Or-
Oh, and Kits as well.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah, it's kids.
So I could have totally kept this. I could have just said it went at
Both.
Kids Beach.
Yes.
There's both. Right before Stanley Park, there's the one.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So there's two.
Damn
Sorry.
it. So I could have been okay, but I could have saved myself, but I played myself.
Next time.
No, we went to go toss the frisbee in the ocean for a bit, for like half an hour. Came back and we put in these little like plastic, like squeezy little pouch. You had them when we were in Hong Kong. They're like the little, you can fold them up. They're like
Oh, yeah.
collapsible water
Yeah,
bottle
those
things,
are really
right?
good.
So we put them in there beforehand. Came back and it was like hot. It was like a hot White Claw and it was disgusting.
Oh. Matt, do you think that maybe that's what made it disgusting? Like, actually, it's okay if it wasn't hot.
Black
Like,
cherry?
like a hot beer, I can't imagine having a good
time.
Yeah, a good time at all.
Like I had it, like I poured it in the thing and I was sipping from it like a Gatorade. I had it cold and that tasted kind of weird.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think because they're not meant to be drunk like that, you know?
Yeah,
Those
fair
type
enough.
of things. I feel like White Claw's got to be like out of the can or in
With
a
a
glass
freezie.
with some ice with a freezy.
Yeah.
Right? Because the freezies are getting the ice.
Yeah, exactly.
You're sweet because they're not very sweet White Claws either.
Yeah, no,
Like
not at all.
they're better than like the other kind of sparkling water stuff, but I think throwing in a bit of the freezies. So we'll do a taste test soon.
So
next
keyword,
time.
it needs to be cold.
Cold, yes.
Warm outside.
Has anyone tried this though? Like warm beer as a idea?
You're
like
gonna make me
hot,
sick.
Hot
Like
beer?
hot,
or-
yeah, hot Coke. Remember hot Coke?
Yeah.
We had hot Coke in Hong Kong.
Yeah, that actually still tasted pretty good. Like, I won't lie, personally, I didn't find it as disgusting as I thought it would be. You know?
I guess because our expectations are at like a 10 of how crappy this
Definitely not.
hot Coke.
Yeah,
hot
no.
Coke's gonna be.
It just tastes like a really bad tea.
Yeah,
Sugary-
it did taste like
sugary
tea.
tea.
It did taste like tea. Did they give us like a side with it? Did they give us like a lemon?
Lemon.
They did give lemon. See, I feel like that helps.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um,
So, welcome to Swamp Life. We're your Swampcast.
we didn't say Spompcast this time. We're getting better.
I almost did.
I
could
know you-
feel it. I could feel it. So, we already kind of had a little bit of what we like, how hot the day is. Did you
warm
get
day.
to, and that you got to enjoy it at the beach? We just had a walk around, and we're getting roasted on the sidewalk as like, it was
Like people were insulting you on the
Physically
sidewalk.
roasted.
no physically roasted. Physically roasted. We're both
Hey, you
shades
stupid
darker.
idiots walking on the
It's a bunch of
sidewalk.
12-year-olds just...
That would have been the lightest of roasts compared to the sun. But yeah, no.
Oh, but speaking of that, so I had the pain of sunscreen in the eyes.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know if this is a common thing that people have. I feel like I'm the only one that's ever had this.
No, you're...
I feel like it's happened to people before,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure.
Especially
Yeah.
once you start sweating, like the second you apply it, and
Yeah,
you're
that
just
seems pretty normal.
gone.
Like it happens to me every time I go in the sun and put on sunscreen. I gotta choose like the sunburn or the eye pain.
Or a
The
hat.
eye pain.
Or hat. Hat, or I just don't apply above the eyes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna start
Yeah.
doing. I'm just gonna not apply above the eyes.
A headband.
Oh, I would rock a headband.
Yeah.
Sexy.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty 80s.
I love solving problems. That's just...
Yeah. But I feel like it's not really the sweat. It's more of the, it's the sun, or not the sun, sunscreen.
Yeah.
And it kind of rolls down by itself a bit, and it gets in the ear, and then I would just, like, scratching at it to get the sunscreen out.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't happen. And I think me doing that made it worse by
Yeah,
getting
because you're
the eye
rubbing it
irritated.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just better from that now, but that was rough earlier on.
Yeah. I don't have to deal with that. I barely put on sunscreen.
Me too, but I'm fairly certain it's not good for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably not good for me either, to be honest. My mom tells me to put it on all the time.
That's a mom's job.
That is a mom's job.
Yeah, make sure that you're eating, that you're warm, and that you're putting on sunscreen.
And that you get married.
Yes.
That's a good transition because I'm watching on the show, Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm watching a show on Netflix
Okay,
called
yeah, I was like, is it called on the
Indian
show? Which
Matchmaking.
Oh, yeah.
Have
I
you
saw
seen
the
this?
trailer for that.
The trailer? It's actually really good.
What is it?
So it's they take this Indian matchmaker woman who's like super famous. She's like the main matchmaker in like the Indian culture around the world, right? And it focuses on I think 4 or 5 different guys and girls looking to get married.
Yeah.
Right? So they go to their house, they sit with their parents, and they talk about what their dream partner is.
Yeah.
They list the criteria, right? And then the matchmaker goes out and finds is in search of the perfect partner for them, right? So they'll give them like almost like resumes of like, okay, this is their height, religion, nationality, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then they go on dates with them and stuff like that, and it's interesting. Yeah.
Does she ever tell them like, okay, you gotta lower your
Oh,
expectations?
all the time. There's this one lawyer chick who is just, she ain't very nice.
I think she was the one in the trailer, and I was like, that's a very bad attitude going into this.
Yeah, and she'll get roasted by the matchmaker. Say,
Oh.
the matchmaker will say,
Oh, great.
she is not very nice. I'm not going to do an accent, but she'll say she is not.
Well, that's good.
She's
At
not
least she
very
makes it entertaining.
Yeah.
I
No.
thought you're like, that's good. At least you won't do an accent.
I thought that's what you were saying.
I thought that's what you were saying. Like, I mean, yeah, that is good, but also
That too, yeah.
the norm.
Yeah. Like, I could do one, but I'm not.
It's such a bad idea.
We'll save
Yeah. We'll save that for
Only because it's not good. If it was good, I would have done it, but it's not a very good accent. No, but we're on episode 5 and stuff, so it's actually cool. There's this one guy who went on a date with that chick who we don't like.
Yeah.
And then the chick liked him, but he didn't like her.
Ooh.
And then one of the other chicks goes on a date with
The guy.
the guy, and they hit it off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I
ouch.
know.
Ouch.
Yeah. So
Well,
it's worth a watch. Not because you're Indian.
no, of course
Not because of
Nothing
that.
to do with
Swear
that.
to God, Christian, you equally should watch that show as much as Anne.
I think, yeah. All right, I'll give it a shot. I've been watching Kingdom, which is like a Korean zombie show, and it's amazing.
That sounds pretty cool.
It's like set in ancient Korea, and
Cool.
it is wicked cool.
Wait, so zombies in ancient Korea?
Yeah,
Perfect.
that
Why is that not a thing more often? Like zombies in a period piece.
I think maybe it depends on the period. Like maybe it's not too interesting, but in ancient Korea, where they have like a cool blend because of their history of like Chinese and Japanese, as well as like their own developed like culture, like all this clash of like awesome blend of I don't know, history. Yeah, you end up with like, I don't know, it's just badass. It's just so good.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
And it's bloody horrifying. Like absolutely it. Well, at least like some of the reveals and stuff is just really, really well done.
Is on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Nice.
Called Kingdom. Very good. Yeah.
cool.
They have like English dubs, and it.
Probably just watch it subbed, right?
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it dubbed because of like, I'm not sure who's actually dubbing them, because sometimes you get the sense where either this person is an actual like their first language is Korean and they're probably doing it like to hit the tones and everything like properly.
Right.
But sometimes you get this almost, with certain characters, almost like a South Park feel, and that makes me very uncomfortable because I'm not sure if that's because...
Is that the intention?
That's the thing. I don't know what the intention is, and sometimes it feels like a white person like putting on an accent, and that ring.
Oh, that's the worst.
But that's the
Ouch.
thing. I'm not sure if it's because that is a person with an actual accent, or if it's because I don't know anything about it, right? So I went into it blind, but there was a moment where I was like listening to it, and then suddenly it felt a little bit like I'm not sure, and it just couldn't get out of my head that I'm not sure how to feel about this. But overall, this thing awesome. I would
with
recommend
subtitles maybe.
Ideally, I think in Korean and then with
that makes
subtitles.
sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
just makes sense.
That sounds pretty cool, though.
It's really fun.
I was told by friends at the beach to watch Avatar and
You
Legend of
should.
Korra because
Hell yeah, man.
I'm
Both great
I feel like I'm a
shows.
bad person because I haven't, because I feel like it's one of those
Yep.
shows.
Get with
that's,
the program.
mandatory watch. I know.
Yeah, it's
all-
a good show.
Even my TikTok, so there's like Avatar, like
Oh, now you're out of the loop. You don't know
yeah,
what's happening.
I know, but I'm not getting the TikToks. Who am I? As a 27-year-old male, if I'm not getting the TikToks, I failed as a man. How am I going to converse with my 16-year-old nieces? I don't know. That's all they speak is the
I
TikToks.
don't think they're talking about Avatar.
Probably not.
Because I feel like that's our generation, right? Last Airbender? Probably.
Nah, that's gonna be multi-generation, man.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
so
but
good.
like it started with our generation, I would say.
When did it come out?
2005? 6?
I don't know. I just remember enjoying it.
2000s. Somewhere in 2000s.
Okay. Yeah, that's like our
Legend of
generation.
Korra was 2013, 2014 or something.
Of scaling of who can pinpoint time, like when this happened, it goes
You.
Thomas, Annie, and then me. Like I'm the worst. You could tell me, like, ask me, oh, when did you watch this? And it could have been yesterday, and I would have no clue.
When were you born? What day?
I don't know how old I am now. I'm fairly certain I'm almost 30. That's it. That's as far as I can know.
As long as you know when you're 30, that's all that kind of matters.
I think that's next year.
And then,
General idea.
what year were you born?
91. So yeah, next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Fuck.
And then it's just 40 and 50, and after 50,
You're good.
you're good. You don't need any more birthdays.
I think I already feel done. Like.
Anyone that's over 30 is gonna be these 29-year-olds that are
Children.
Life is hard.
Yeah, life is hard.
Yeah. Thomas isn't getting TikToks anymore.
I'm not getting that. I'm not understanding the TikToks of these 15-year-old references that.
It gets worse.
Yeah, it's mostly basketball ones where the person shooting is like fire,
Oh,
air,
right.
and it's like they're making the brick shot, the air ball.
Got
Oh,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So I still understand, but
I felt like an old person going, "Oh, that's funny." Instead,
oh, that's amusing. I can see the humor in that. Yes.
Speaking of stories, you just finished Last of Us, the first one.
Yeah, and the second one, but we can start with the first one.
So I guess it's better than starting at the second one and then going back.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much just binged it because, like, basically immediately after finishing the first one, you dropped off the second one.
Yeah. Like that day.
That day, yeah. Okay. Man, it's a lot.
Since it's the first one and we're talking about stories, we can cover that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess that's the main kind of through point is kind of
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then we can always kind of go into, I guess.
Well, people already can see reviews of the first
Yeah.
one's gameplay and stuff. We're going to talk mostly about the second one, but let's do like a catch up for people
Sure.
to put them in the mindset of how the second one starts by finishing with the first one's story, right?
Yeah. Well, to start off with, I really enjoyed how they kind of structured the first one in terms of seasons. So every story takes place in a specific season, and they managed to kind of they just did that really well. It felt clean. It felt like to the point. They didn't feel like filler, you know. They tend to kind of get to the main beats of the story really well. Also, it was really cool to just kind of flip to Ellie like halfway through the game.
Yeah.
I think that was something cool and something that I wasn't necessarily expecting. I kind of figured you'd eventually play as her, but just the way they introduced that, where like you're just hunting in this snowy area, and that was really cool. And then leading up to the end of the game, I was not expecting that. Joel's a dick, but we'll get to that.
On the end of the first one.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like in the game, nobody's really a good person,
Not at all.
right? Nobody's like, because in that world you have to be out for your own.
Yeah, if you're not,
Self-interests,
if
right?
if you're not, to a point, vicious, then you're dead. And I think throughout the first game, they drive that really hard to let you know that this is this world. Like, understand that if you aren't looking out for yourself, then you're probably dead or in the process of being dead.
Well, that's how they start off the first one, right? Like literally with
Exactly.
the death of Joel's
Daughter.
daughter.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is that the game literally starts with the most tragic moments that a game can, or any sort of art can, is the death of your daughter.
Yeah.
Right? Tragedy is is what the game's really all about. The series really all about is tragedy.
Yeah,
Right?
no, absolutely.
That's kind of the world that it kind of builds off the bat.
Yeah, it's like the tragic decline of human psyche. Like we think we're, established and civilized, and then as soon as things go extreme, we also go extreme, and we end up like doing things that we probably wouldn't think that we were even capable of doing. Like, killing Joel's daughter, or you see your brother get turned into a zombie and you shoot your brother and then you shoot yourself because you can't handle this shit. That moment was probably the most impactful moment in that game because
Oh, that freaked me out.
and the fact that they cut it, like they were just like, we're done,
New season.
basically. And I didn't have time to process it, but that's exactly what they want you to feel. And I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I guess because it also makes that jump of like of Joel and Ellie being so calm in the next part that it's like, did they sort this out? And as you know, when Ellie tries to talk to Joel about it, they haven't. So they haven't even talked about it. Like, it happens, and you're still left there with a shock, but these characters have moved on only in the sense with time, but they haven't actually moved on emotionally. So they're just as stuck as we are. Difference is they're pretending like it's not happening, and we're, as an audience, going, why aren't they talking about this? This is so not good. Like, this is so unhealthy.
Yeah,
And the communication with Joel and Ellie goes into the next game as well, right?
Right.
The lack of communication is one of kind of the almost a downfall of their entire relationship, right?
Also, the other thing with that same storyline with the brothers, Henry, is that his name?
I
think
can't
that was his
remember.
name. I don't know if you noticed it when you were playing Last of Us 2, but in Ellie's room, the action
figure's there.
Yeah,
right?
that was-
Even I noticed it
that
watching
was a
it.
really good. Yeah,
That's
that was a
awesome.
really good inclusion for sure.
That was another just tragic moment of every character that you get attached to in that game, in the first game, other than Ellie and Joel, I believe, they die.
Yes,
Really, right?
Tommy.
Tommy survives. That's true. I'm blanking on the woman's name at the beginning.
Tessa.
Yeah. Tessa.
Oh,
Obviously.
And I guess the only other person is his buddy, right? Who like traps.
The trap guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him as well.
But he was kind of used as like this is what Joel would become if he doesn't open himself up, because this guy is a paranoid recluse.
He was a dick as well. No
absolutely.
one really grew attached to him as a as a sentimental character.
But I think it was like kind of a foil to show the audience, like, if Joel didn't have Ellie to start having some discussions, this is what Joel would have ended up as.
Yep.
He would have been this lonely guy with traps all over town, like not trusting anyone, thinking everyone's like wrong or insane, or he can't connect with anyone, when it's like, actually, that's what's making you vulnerable. Like, if he breaks his foot, he's done. Like, that's...
And that's a thing where I found with Joel, he evolved over time a bit in the game. Because of Ellie, he learned to have compassion for people. He learned to even kind of care for strangers a bit, or not kind of look at everyone as immediately as an enemy.
Yeah.
Which kind of in the end was maybe part of his downfall as well, right? But
actually, yeah.
right, and that's something that Ellie showed him, right? And that's where I found Joel's becoming more of Tommy.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of towards the second game.
But you can see, especially at the end of the first one, that his arc is improving. But at the very, very end, when the choice is between humanity and losing someone again, close, like a personal relationship, that's when he makes what we would call like an understandable selfish act to save Ellie. and all of his growth is somewhat cut short by this like act of him lying to her as well, you know, like not that he saves her, but that he lies to her right after he saves her about it. It's like, oh no, it turns out you weren't needed, you know.
And you have to think that it is entirely a selfish act to save Ellie. It's on
Oh,
himself. It's
yeah.
the guilt that he has of losing his daughter.
Yeah,
Right. Ellie didn't want to be saved.
as far as we know.
I don't think she ever
I
wanted. I don't think she wanted to be
I
saved.
think she wanted to have the choice.
Mm.
I think that was something that, like yeah, even like into the second game, I think, and I don't know if they necessarily drove that hard until like the very end, like that last scene with her and Joel, where she was like, "You didn't even give me a fucking choice." I think
This is number 2 territory.
yes.
Spoiler.
Spoilers.
I think we'll have that in the header.
We're going
Yeah,
to be
we
talking
should,
about
yeah.
this
Yeah,
game.
oh, the hate email. You mother.
I didn't know.
But I think I think I would say like she definitely wanted to at least have the choice of whether or not that was going to happen or not. But I think like you said, like I think throughout the first game, more so in the second game, the entire thing is about making hard choices.
Yeah.
Like always, because you're just like, I don't know if I want to kill this person. Like you can go through many sections of the game without killing anybody, which is sweet. Because there are a lot of moments, especially in the second game, since everything's so much bigger, that I was like, yo, I'm tired. I physically feel tired, and I was like, I'm just kind of slide through this portion of this level or whatever, and you can most of the time. Sometimes not so much, but that's for like a story plot or something like that. But yeah, a lot of the times you could totally just sneak right by unnoticed, and that's okay. And I thought that was really interesting because like I don't know if I've ever actually felt that in a game, because you get so desensitized and you're like, oh, I'm shooting a bunch of people, I'm getting really good at aiming at people, and like also let me say, using a bow and arrow in this game was the most satisfying thing
It's
ever. When you get it, oh man, that's great. And you can go and retrieve your arrow again, also great.
Just because ammo is so scarce, it's like, oh my god, you can
Yeah.
kill someone in one shot and get your arrow back.
Exactly.
What is life?
Is this for the first one or both?
Both.
Okay, both.
Especially
I
in
think
the second one.
You don't get the arrow till later in the game of the first one.
Yeah, you don't get it until until you play as Ellie for the first.
Yeah, Ellie gets the bow, right? Before we go into the second one, I did want to ask about your thoughts on the DLC.
Right.
Because I played this.
That was fun.
Because I played Last of Us 2 months ago, the entire game the way through for the first time, and the DLC. But I thought the DLC for the humor of Last of Us overall as a series, which is underrated, I think it was one of the funnier games I played.
Really?
Did you watch the DLC?
I don't think I did actually.
Yeah.
Oh.
I feel like I missed out now.
What was the title of it again? It was
Left Behind.
Left Behind.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it like really dark humor kind of like?
No, it's really innocent.
No, it's innocent.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a lot
'Cause-
like.
Well, I don't know the story, so you guys will
Well,
have to
yeah,
explain it to me.
I guess going over the main story is essentially it takes place during that time in the main game where Ellie, where Joel gets injured, like
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
And so basically she's trying to find medicine to help him out, or at least like patch him up before he dies. And then in the process of they're in a mall. They're stuck in a mall.
Yep.
And then in the process of her going to find a health kit somewhere nearby where there's like a crash military site, it flashes back to before she got bit, leading up to her bite. So the innocent part is when she's
Because she's younger and
Yeah.
a kid, and yeah.
Yeah, and she has a not a girlfriend at the time, but a female friend
Yeah.
that she grows closer to, kind of through the whole thing.
Yeah.
They're battling some zombies. I think the woman shows Ellie music and like bands that she's never listened to before as well.
going
that was
to the
a really big
arcade for the
thing.
first time.
Oh, the arcade scene was super cool.
Really cool.
Where it was broken. This was actually one of the I guess most heartwarming scenes in kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Similar to in The Last of Us 2, when Ellie's in the spaceship with Joel, right? Similar elements there, where she's in an arcade, the machine's broken, probably been broken for forever, but it's like Street Fighter, and then Ellie's friend goes through pretty much narrates what the actual thing would be, right? So like, oh, you're this like badass chick with all these moves, and you're fighting against this dude over here, and just goes into all the different like.
She basically like
narrates
tells her
the
to close
scenario.
her eyes, and then she's like, "Oh, now you got to press the attack button." And so like a button prompt will show up, and so you press the attack button. You've got a health bar, and then you can kind of see it depleting. So she's imagining how the game would actually be.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, so
I like that.
yeah, and the second one when there was the space shuttle scene with Joel.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was a good callback.
Yeah.
so good.
See, now that makes that's really cool because then it's something that has happened before that I didn't know, because when it happened while I watched that. All right, we'll get into that, I guess, when we start covering number 2 fully. But yeah,
I think
that's
main,
awesome. I like that.
The main theme is that, not main theme, but is that it shows Ellie's first lesbian encounter, right?
Yeah.
Where she
She grew attached to this person, and then
Well, she's like discovering her own sexuality,
Exactly.
and what her orientation is, and things like that. That's awesome.
yeah,
and then they get bit.
Less awesome.
yeah, but that's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
And she mentions that exact moment in the end of the first game when she's
Yeah.
So she literally takes her like word for word. What was it? Not go into craziness together or something like that.
Yeah.
Like she literally just quotes her friend just before she died. So yeah.
And she realized, holy crap, I'm immune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. That's cool how that actually adds a lot more to the original game, because like
Yeah, it adds a
Yeah,
level of
that's-
weight to it,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think they
That's
could have
cool.
really done it in the main game, so I'm glad that was like a DLC thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That worked really well as a DLC.
Because it's extremely slow paced.
Yeah.
Like half the game is you just walking the mall with your girlfriend, the girl. Right?
Yeah, because
So
you're just
that's-
discovering things. It's more it's more discovery than actual combat necessarily. Like combat does happen, but it's more discovery for
It's like
sure.
half-
Story
and half.
elements and
Yeah, you're playing like you got like water guns, and you're like trying to
Oh.
find each other and shoot water guns at each
Cute,
other.
fun,
and,
yeah.
more
That's
fun-based things, or like throwing rocks at a car and seeing how many glass windows you can shatter and stuff like that.
I love the joke book. She finds a pun book, and then she reads out the puns.
Oh god.
And it's just like, and you can keep going.
Yeah,
it's like
you
you can
can
stop,
keep
you can
going.
keep going and stuff.
Oh cool. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, there's like 15 or 20 different puns, so you can just keep going, and some are better than others.
And it's only 2 hours long, 2.5 maybe. It's a really quick,
it's a quick
little
one.
thing. So watching it's probably even like.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
think I would really enjoy doing that. I think it also, and it sounds like it really enhances like the original game as like as a story. So I like that. That's pretty cool.
Especially going in the second one, I think it's to get to know Ellie.
Yeah. To prepare you for that, right?
Yeah, right. I think it's so Ellie focused, right? That
Yeah.
as the second game is, right? It's a really good kind of.
Very good
So
point.
do we go into the second one now?
I think
do
we
it.
answer the second one
Okay.
properly.
Sure.
So I guess right, like I got the game Friday at 4 p.m. And I finished it Sunday morning at 10 a.m.
Wow. Yeah.
I think I was at like 23 hours played in total, right? So up till 2 a.m. on Friday,
Yeah.
and then Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. and then I finished it on Sunday morning.
That's awesome.
Right? I've never played a game, finished a game of that length in that short a time period ever in my life.
So you've never been like as drawn in like by a game as you have like with
No.
this one. That's
No.
awesome.
I know it took you a bit longer to finish it because you're a normal sane person, but
Yeah, a bit longer than that for sure. Also, like I said, I got tired in the middle of the game because there were definitely parts that were slower than others, and I was like, oh, I don't really know if I want to play this necessarily, but it literally felt like exhausted because of all the shit that Ellie gets put through, and then Abby gets put through. And I'm just like, yo, these people are getting put through the ringer, man. And I feel exhausted for them, which is, I don't think I've ever felt that in a game before. That was a very interesting feeling because I was just like, why? But then I'm like, oh, I don't want to shoot this dog. And like you start feeling these things.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point of the game. I'm sure, because it felt visceral. There were like a lot of moments where I'm like, I don't want to do this right now. And then the button prompt is like, you got to keep pressing square, you're going to die. And I'm like, okay, let's get through this, which is great because that's exactly what the game was meant to make you feel.
Dude, I had that sensation as someone who was watching the game. I wasn't even playing the game, and I had that sensation. And I'll tell you what, like, down the line, like something that'll probably piss off a couple of people, but I'll tell you guys when there was a moment which I had to like give up for a bit, and it's the funniest point in time. Anyway,
Yeah, so I guess kind of first things I kind of learned from your experience was the gameplay differences, right? Kind of going generation ahead, right?
yeah.
How did you find the gameplay and how it kind of evolved?
Oh,
right?
I loved it. It was, yeah, this is a lot of fun. And all the enhancements and the additions to gameplay that they made, like the jump button, dodge button was big. What else? Just all like the weapon changes, or yeah, even like having like belts.
Belts, yeah.
And like it's such a small thing, but it adds so much more to it because you can switch on the fly now. You can just switch with a button instead of like I gotta wait and then I gotta open my backpack, pull out another gun, and then close my backpack. And then by the time you're doing all that, you might be dead, right?
Yeah.
But then now you've got different belts and different holsters and stuff like that, and that was a great addition. So yeah, all of the additions to gameplay from the first to the second was, I think, warranted. It made sense in the story, which is great, and also just like as a player, it just made things easier. And things, since you're like the AI in this game,
Oh, the AI is brutal. It is ruthless.
brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Like they pick you up immediately. Like you can't make bad moves. You can't afford to, which is awesome because I wasn't even playing in hard mode. I played hard mode for a few of the levels, but more or less I was playing moderate. And even then, like the AI is responsive and they just quickly get to you. And if you make one bad move, you're dead. Which is good. It adds that level of like, you know, there's a risk factor and everything. So that was awesome.
What I loved as well was the inclusion of the grass. Right?
Oh, yeah,
Being
the
able
tall
to be
grass,
stealthy
yeah.
in the tall grass. That added so much
Yeah.
to the stealth gameplay. Because with that, if they see you, like I was playing on hard mode, and if they see you, you're kind of done.
Yeah.
Right? You have to escape and kind of leave your position, but kind of going, you know, if you're in like a field, right, or wherever you are, if you can run away and get in another kind of plane of grass out of sight, right? Like it felt like literally how people would react in
Totally.
an actual situation. I've never had it like that in a video game before.
Very responsive.
Because even when I would die, I didn't feel like it felt like I earned it.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Like because it was your actions that led to your death and not because of a glitch or something like that.
yeah,
It was
exactly.
Like, oh, shit,
or even
I
like
messed up.
the enemies are too cheap. Right?
Yeah.
I always feel like it's always kind of earned.
Do you think because of the grass because I know in the first one you could also avoid battles, right? Like if you found things like
Right.
tough, right? Do you think that because of this grass mode that you chose stealth over like a gunfight more often?
You almost kind of have to, especially on hard mode. There's such little ammo. You always kind of have to. There's no real non-stealth option.
You got to be
you know?
smart. Yeah, you got to be smart about it. And most of the time, smart means stealth.
You guys sound like you're survivors in an
It
apocalypse.
really
like
felt
you're
like
talking
that.
about
it
it.
feels
It's
like
funny.
that only because it feels like how a 20-year-old woman would actually, or
Totally.
man, right, would actually act in that.
But no, even in that
situation,
regard,
right?
like Ellie is smaller, right? So she's
Yeah.
a bit more like nimble, I guess.
Yeah.
And there are enemies that are much bigger than her, but she can move. She's faster, so
Yeah.
she can do things that they probably can't do, and you have to use that to her advantage, which was great.
Yeah, I also like as well when you go to play as Abby later on. She is this jacked,
Yeah.
muscle-bound woman. Looks like she can like break some world records in bench press, right? So she can literally beat up people with her bare hands.
Yeah.
Right. Which is
You feel it.
and she uses more heavy assault rifles as well.
Yeah.
And the differences in characters make more sense. You can be a bit more aggressive with her, and they still have to be stealthy compared to Ellie. I thought that was a great
Yeah, that was good.
a great addition as well.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, with Abby, you definitely feel a sense of power and strength that you don't feel as much with Ellie, and especially playing as Ellie for so long, you get used to like her. You're like, oh yeah, no, I'm really good at like she's really good at the bow and arrow. So like, you know, I'm really good at getting headshots and get that one kill and you're done and then move on to the next spot and like even different like her tools are different as well. So she has smoke bombs and stuff like that, or maybe that was Abby who has a smoke bomb.
I think Abby has smoke bomb.
But she's got like the Molotov cocktail thing and stuff like that, which you start getting used to it and then it makes the switch. Which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
But when that switch does happen, you can't really use those same tactics anymore. So you have to start learning how Abby would work and how she would do things. And it makes so much sense character-wise, too, because she's this person who's, like, clearly been training a lot for her, like, for this day. Yeah, exactly. So she's been, like, you know, thinking about, like, I would imagine this is a person who's, like, in the gym, she knows why she's doing this for one reason, right? And so like when you play
very
as her,
militant mind,
feel it,
very military kind of discipline,
strategic, yeah, exactly. The discipline, it's there, and you can feel it. And then even based on like her, she you still are stealthy with her, but you're more likely to win in a fist fight with Abby than.
Yeah, you can just like smack them around with your fists.
Cool. It's cool how they added like these characters like who they are and actually make you the player change the way you play because you know you've got different tools.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat how they use gameplay to get you comfortable with knowing that these are two different people.
And they are very different people, so it was like a good kind of
like it really
dichotomy?
internalizes.
Is that the word? Is that a word? Dichotomy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're opposites in a
English,
sense, right? Yeah.
You really because they're direct opposites. One thing about the game where even with the gameplay, even when the story, when we'll get into Abby in a bit, right? But when the part of the story where you're playing as Abby and you're a bit less, for me at least, I was a bit less, involved in the story and as invested.
Same.
The gameplay kept me going, right? And I think part of me kind of wanted to go back and play more as Ellie, right? But the gameplay was so outstanding that I didn't really care as much at that point, even about the story, because I knew where it was going. Yeah. So I just wanted to get there, and because I'm enjoying the gameplay so much, that was okay.
Yeah, I think every move you made as the character had weight behind it, which was. It's really weird to say, but I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now, and that game has its own like pros and cons. But one of the things that I don't find that I did with Last of Us Part 2, which was just weight, the weight behind your jumps, the weight behind every smack. Like you take a wooden plank and you beat the shit out of somebody. Like I feel that weight, and that was something that was very cool, very interesting. Yeah, but then going from gameplay into like sound and the audio, because I played the whole game with headphones on, and man, every time I heard what are they called? Crackers? Crawlers?
Crackers.
That's not it.
Crackers.
Every time I heard crackers.
They are white mostly.
Anyway, the ones that make the sounds, right? The weird.
The
what are they called?
Oh, wow. Not the crackers. They are called the
Clickers.
The guy who watched the game.
The guy who only watched the game. I didn't even play it, and I.
Yeah.
Guys, shame.
Because I just heard them all the time, and I was freaked out. But yeah, every time that happened, like every time it was like a human enemy, I was like, okay, I'll be fine. Like I'm less scared.
Yeah.
Man, every time those clickers showed up, I was just freaking out, and I'm like, okay, heart rate's going up for sure right now. And also like, especially the
boss fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
giant
God.
clicker.
Oh my God, that was horrifying. Also really fun to play, but horrifying. Yeah. Holy shit! I don't know how you would get through that on a hard difficulty, because I struggled.
It was rough. It was a lot of dying. But I think I had the flamethrower and I just kept running. I was running in that hospital. Just kept reloading.
As soon as I realized that it was more open than I initially assumed it was, I was like, okay, I can book it right now. It's just the only way to survive this.
Yeah,
which is great. Yeah, that was a cool boss fight. I thought that was like close to the end of the game, but not even.
No.
We'll talk about that too.
Like I guess kind of graphics and sound kind of all go into kind of one package, right? Like obviously, kind of you can go see the gameplay and the graphics, yourself, right? But how it just all ties in together in your immersion in the world is what I think is the coolest thing, right? Like the first game, you're immersed in the story and you're immersed in the world as well, and the graphics, for the time were great, but just the audio, the voice acting, and obviously the graphics as well, right? Just gets you so immersed in this living, breathing world, right?
Well, their expressions were incredible. Like I was very impressed by that.
Everything is just elevated.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was lucky to play on like my my big Sony TV and my PS4 Pro.
Nice.
And
flex.
it was like but I just want to compare it to the.
No, I know. I'm jealous.
And it was a bit of a flavor. Maybe it was a mini one.
It was envy.
Yeah, so I don't know how this plebe Annie on this TV enjoyed
Yeah,
it. But.
on your old TV.
Yeah, it's true. It's my old TV. I'm sure you got used to it, I guess. But
eventually.
no, but the overall immersion, right? And my subwoofer and my surround sound audio.
You dick.
No, but it used it. It was overall great experience, and I don't know how that can be matched by PS5, especially for the first for the launch lineup and the first 6 months. How graphics, audio, whatever it is, can match Last of Us 2. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, they
and
really...
I've seen the gameplay of all the games and stuff, right? But I think it'll take like a year for them to be able to.
I'm even more curious to see if they. I mean, I imagine they will make a remastered of Last of Us Part 2 on the PS5.
Wow.
I'm curious to see what that would look like.
That's gonna take like at least half a decade before they would consider doing that, right? Because their graphics are good enough that they don't have to worry.
True, but that's what we thought with the PS3, and they made a remaster.
Yeah,
relatively
it was a year
quick.
late. It was directly a year, almost exactly later. They made the remaster.
Well, I guess
of
if
The
they
Last
already
of
have
Us.
the knowledge of the hardware and some test kits, maybe they would have already started it and then been like and downgraded it for this
I
generation.
don't necessarily
console? Do you
downgrade,
think?
but
No.
like they would have probably pushed the PS4 to its limit, and then realized that there are
Now we
new
can push it a little more,
possibilities.
yeah.
I think it's just to sell game copies that it's the same game really. The graphics are a bit better, and you get the DLC. So it was a bit of a combo package there, right? But I think it was just for me. I didn't have a PS3, so I never played Last of Us. So I was fully down to put the money forward. But I think leaving this generation, where so many people had the PS4, right?
Yeah.
When PS3 eventually they became the greatest selling console of that generation. I think leaving this generation where almost everyone has a PS4 and compared to I have an Xbox as well, right? But
Christian,
yeah,
single tier. It's okay.
I don't know if there's the market demands for as much for
Yeah, it's
for the
definitely
remaster,
different,
right?
Yeah, the time is different for sure.
Especially when I'm sure they're making like Uncharted 5 or whatever, right? Which will take the amount of man hours to make that game on the PS5, right? Yeah. So.
Just one thing, because I remember watching like Last of Us 2, and the snow was something that I found really fun to see, but because I didn't play it, I couldn't mess around with walking around and seeing how the treads kind of like, is that something that was like you would walk and you would not only just see your footprints, but could you like go back on top of them and like just keep seeing how this like, flattens out? Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, they nailed, like, in terms of detail. They got really good. They got really good at just like the smallest of things too, which was
And the amount of work.
Oh God. Yeah.
yeah. How many ever years that took to make? What, like 4 or 5 years?
Probably at least.
Damn. Yeah. So from there, going into story.
Wait, there was a story. I think I skipped the story mode. I think I played the arcade mode.
It was trivial. It's all right.
Yeah, you need to know that. So I guess kind of going into the story, I guess your kind of initial takes on Joel's death. I guess how you felt at the time.
The opening.
The opening.
Yeah.
It was actually I played it again up to that point. It was about 2 hours in, hour and a half in. Yeah. When it happened, I thought it happened immediately because that's all you remember is when that happened.
Which is the point.
Yeah.
Well, it shows that it definitely hit that emotional impact that it was looking for, right? Like the fact that it's like you have 2 hours of kind of like getting used to this town, getting used to their new life, right? Like their Joel and Ellie's like relation, because you're coming back to it as a viewer, right? So you're like, oh, their relationship is slightly different. Oh, they're in a community now. Oh, so you have like these 2 hours to get used to this new normal.
Yeah.
And then bam.
Yeah.
Which
Bam!
leaves-
Golf club to the face.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. So I guess what were your initial
Oh man.
thoughts and feelings?
That was a really well done scene. Kudos to everybody who was part of that. That was really good. Also really heartbreaking, which is the point, and face breaking. Poor Joel.
But
I thought it
and the
worked.
guns on her too, like on
Oh,
Abby, right?
yeah.
Like that's not a normal golf swing.
I think the part that got me the most, and like, because it was like, oh, like they got back in and they're like everyone's trying to understand who these two guys are, and Tommy's like, yeah, my name's Tommy, and then he's like, that's Joel, my big brother, and almost immediately Abby takes a shotgun to Joel's leg, and I was like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah.
That got me almost immediately.
So I played it back again. Joel says his name earlier, actually, to Abby. Right.
She has a shocked face initially, like, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see that, right? Right when right when the infected are coming in and they shut the door on them.
Yeah.
He's like, "What's your name?" I'm Joel, or something along those lines, right? And then she's shocked face, like, "Oh my God, you're
the one we're looking
You're the
for,
one we're
yeah.
looking for," which is funny because like they had no chance, because Abby would have gone in that town. She would have been shot on sight immediately.
For sure.
Screwed.
Right? She would have been screwed, right? Like, but how it happened, she was just like, oh my God,
So lucky.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I never really caught that. That means that she had all that time to process.
What she was gonna do.
That's because then he after that she said, I have friends at this house,
Right.
right? So she lured
Him there.
right? And I guess kind of one thing about that, kind of going into, I guess, the fans' feedback, right? One I think it was a tweet, or maybe a few tweets about Joel doing that, and Joel going into that house with those strangers, right? Like people saying Joel would never do that, right? Like Joel's the person who, driving on the highway, he sees a family of hitchhikers, he's going to keep going forward. Like, he doesn't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Right? But the reality is there's all these infected here. They got to fucking go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a move not only out of desperation, but also this is a Joel that's years down the line and already part of a community too.
Yeah.
So this is not the same Joel that we left in number one.
It's not. It's
midway.
exactly.
Through number one.
It's a different person. But even if it was the same person, it's still a safer choice to go to that house of strangers than to stay and get killed by the infected.
Yeah, it's
Exactly,
just more
because
logical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's just a logical. Even if he was a pure narcissist and a pure
Yeah, I mean,
it's
still
still
have
psychopath. It's still the best decision, right?
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, I could die right now or potentially die later. I'm going to take the potentially die later and see if I can weasel my way out of that one, and it's easier to do that if you're not eaten. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think strategy wise, that's exactly what he would have done regardless. Like the survivalist instinct would have kicked in and be like, well, die now or see what.
Yeah, and
happens.
it's like you said, he's a different Joel. He's more accustomed to people around him. He's like his walls have been going down, especially like after that whole thing happens, and then you go and visit Joel's house. It's like, oh, he's got a life now. Like, he set something up for himself now. You know, like, he's not really the same like closed off guy he used to be. He's like
He's
living
trying to
he's trying to
up,
open up more, and he's living a life with his brother. He's living a life with other people. Like, he's definitely more of a social being and person as opposed to the guy we saw in the first game who was like you said, everyone's my enemy, right? And that's totally, I'm sure, a factor into the decision making at that moment, but also the moment itself.
Do you think there was something again, just the only thing I can comment on is as a viewer, because I just watched the game, right? But I found it very striking because I was used to, after watching the first one, that you would change from Joel to Ellie, right? That this one started with Ellie and then changed to Abby, and I was expecting it to change to Joel. So I found it very interesting. The second it changed to Abby, I'm like, who is this? What's going on? Like, straight away, my alarm bells were going off. Like, what's going on? This is a little funky right here.
Yeah.
And then when she ran into Joel, I was like, oh, something's up. Like, and I enjoyed that because it was like that tension of you know something's up, but you don't know what's up, and that because the gameplay isn't through Joel, you know. And I think that was a pretty clever way to.
Really? Immediately? See, for some reason, I thought the entire time that was going to be Ellie's main love interest.
Oh,
That's what I thought, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought they were going to kill off the
Dina.
I thought they were going to kill off Dina, and that was going to be the love interest, right? The entire time. So then I don't think I thought about fireflies or whatever. I thought they were just a group of whatever, right? It was going to be a love story and you play as both characters. That's what I thought it was going to be.
Interesting take. Yeah.
And then part of me thought, wait, what if that's actually Joel's daughter looking for revenge, and she never actually died, and she's mad that her dad left her to die, and she actually was immune. Part of me thought that, but I'm like, okay, I don't.
Yeah.
And I was like,
immune to bullets, it seems.
Yeah. For a second, I was thinking that, and then because she was she was blonde still, but then I thought of the timeline and the ages, and I'm like, okay,
That doesn't line up.
Yeah, it doesn't really line up. Interesting though. Would have been interesting.
That would have been
What
really
if?
trippy. I think people would have been more rightfully mad at
Yeah, it's a stupid idea, but
than Joel getting killed off at that point, because oh god,
That would have been hilarious.
like I think of any other thing they could do in the story, other than that. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's saying how that ruined the franchise. It killed off the most beloved character in the franchise.
He was an asshole.
He was like you were drawn to him, and you drew close
you can
to him.
sympathize with him, but he's still an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it so jeopardized the entire world. Dude,
Yeah.
what?
And when he died, I was bummed because you do grow to appreciate him, and you see him evolve
For sure.
from that game, and especially early on when he gives Ellie the guitar and playing the guitar and sings to Ellie. Because in the first game, that's what Ellie wanted, was him to sing to him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, at that point, like, in your mind, it's all like, okay, he's a good guy, right? Like, I'm full on, that's Daddy Joel.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, tough love Daddy Joel.
Yeah, I think that move was very earned. Like, the fact that the first game happened and you know, I mean, we just played the game, like, we just played the first game going into the second one. But there are people who played the first game in 2013 have had these 7 years to think about all these possibilities and what if scenarios and whatever, have grown even more fond of these characters over those 7 years going into the second game. So I get why people would be pissed off at that, but they totally earned that death.
Yeah.
Like, that was completely justified. And I'm sure like there are people who are like, yeah, you know, that could have happened, but maybe later on in the game, not immediately, which is fair, you know, whatever. But I think it worked.
I liked it early on immediately because it just sets the tone. It just jumpstarts the game.
Yeah.
When you're playing as Ellie, you're like, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right? Let's go. I think it worked on 2 levels, right? One of Last of Us is tragedy. Last of Us, shit happens. It's The Last of Us, right? First game, your daughter dies.
Everybody you know dies.
Everyone you know dies in the game. I don't get why everyone's like, oh my god, they killed off Joel. It's like Game of Thrones. People die in this world, right? There was one game. It's not like 6 Star Wars games, and they changed the tone in the new one, right? There was one game, and it's extremely consistent from the first game's tone.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it totally makes sense in regards to that.
And it
doesn't pull your leg. Like, it doesn't pull your leg, like, because they do it early on. You're right, because it sets that tone. You can also, like, you can feel that grief as well, and you can carry that on moving forward. And I think it's kind of brave by the storytellers to be like, no, we know that you like this character, but we're trying to tell a story because, like, with this, you know?
Yeah.
So they're I found it very brave that they're like, we're gonna get rid of him straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I've heard other people say, oh, what would be a better idea for this game would be, oh, you know, Joel and Ellie go on like another adventure, and maybe they find like another group of people, and then everything else sounds so boring.
It's just the same game.
Everything else, it's
Yeah,
Last of Us. Everything else just sounds extremely boring of every other kind of game idea and like story idea that I've heard from people that hated the story.
Yeah.
Right. Everything else just sounds incredibly boring.
Also, can I just say, is it being spoiled if the game's box spoils it for you? So the game's box, on the back of the box, was like, oh, follow Ellie as she gets revenge for the people who have wronged her. And
Is that
I'm like,
what it
there's
says?
literally only one thing that could happen to her for someone who would have wronged her. Yeah, check it out. It's on the back of the box. It's something along the lines of that.
Experience the devastating physical and emotional consequences of Ellie's vengeance as you embark on a relentless pursuit of those who've wronged her. That's even worse than what you said.
Yeah. So,
No, it tells you. It tells
That
you
literally tells you that Joel dies on the back of the box.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, well, okay, thanks, game.
That can only mean one
Honestly.
thing. Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Joel isn't even on the box art in the back of the box.
I like that. At least they're not like giving you false advertisement. Like here's
Well,
Joel and Ellie,
I
and
mean, the trailers did.
oh, the trailers did.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right.
People got pissed off about that too. Which
I think
is fair.
rightfully so.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Don't. Yeah.
They switched out all because you know like there's a bunch of not recaps, flashbacks that happen in the game to different time periods. Yeah, they switched out the character models from the younger versions to the older versions to make it seem that
Oh.
that was happening in present time, even though it wasn't.
That's
and
bad.
then they also switched out the character completely with Joel. It was Jesse. It's when Jesse comes to Seattle and saves Ellie, and he's like, "I wouldn't let you do this on your own."
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, in the trailer, Joel says that too.
Oh, that
Oh
sucks.
no.
Okay, that's stupid.
Salts
That's
to
false
the
advertising
wound.
right
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Because that was after the spoilers were released, right?
No, that
before?
trailer came out a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first trailers.
If I watched that trailer and then played the game, I would. I think I would be justified
Yeah.
being mad at that.
Yeah.
I can understand it from that perspective.
That's fair.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And they were lied to, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, that's where I'm lucky going to this. I didn't watch any
Yeah.
trailers really. Like I don't with games. I really don't like to watch trailers or gameplay. Like clips and stuff to see if I'd like it.
Yeah.
Right. But like a Last of Us 2, where I know I'd like it going into it. I don't want to see really anything. I want
Yeah.
the full game. I want
They
to
did a
binge it.
Good
and I
job
wanna-
of. I mean, I'm a person who likes to see trailers only because I like to get excited about things. So I'm like, yeah, well, this is supposed to get me excited for it. Hopefully, they've done their job correctly and haven't spoiled the game for me. Which I think they did a good job of. They didn't really show anything at all. I think the only thing that they showed the first time that they ever revealed Last of Us 2 was the scene of Abby getting dragged and hung up, and then she gets saved by Lev and
Oh yeah.
Lev's sister.
yeah. Oh, I'm totally blanking on her name. Ooh, I can't remember. But that
Miranda?
was the scene that they showed the first time that they revealed Last of Us Part 2. And I just assumed that scene was going to be in the game. So there was a part of me that was like, oh, that scene hasn't happened yet, so it's going to come.
Yeah.
Which is like my thing of I've seen this before, and so I know it's coming. But at the same time, I didn't really spoil anything. We didn't know who Abby was at the time. It was just this random person, and they really wanted to show off the graphics of that scene.
Yara.
Yara, there we go. That's it.
I googled it.
I was saying
I thought you
Yuna.
just like out.
Again?
Again, just like, oh, by the way, it's Yara, Annie.
Yeah.
It's.
I'm sorry. Person that
There's a
hasn't
lot of
played the
names.
game.
I guess.
Well, moving on from maybe like the initial part of the story, like
Sure.
the opening, because I feel like that at least we agree that was brave and really set the tone and kind of moved the like. I think that was the
forward,
most
yeah.
exciting part of the story for me. But like moving forward, like what is it that how do you think the story progressed? Like let's just cover like the first part with Ellie, like
Sure.
like going through that story arc and just the first part before
Yeah.
you transition to
Yeah, I
to
think
Abby.
they did a good job. It sounds like the entire time we were gushing over the game, and it's like a 10 out of 10. And I feel like now's the part where we kind of go more into
Yeah.
so some of the issues, right? Like I
So-
feel
so-
like right now this like they could use this as an ad on their
Yeah.
Naughty Dog because we've said only like
Positive
great things about the
things.
game, right? When it's not a perfect game, and it's at all, right?
No.
But I think they did a good job building the relationship with Dima or Dina.
Dina.
Dina and Ellie. They did a good job of that. I liked learning about Dina being Jewish and the growing up in the Holocaust. Not herself, obviously, but her family
Right.
being Holocaust
That's
survivors.
interesting, yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. And then kind of just thinking about the kind of parallels about kind of the world that she's in now, right? And I thought the relationship felt fairly, organic, right? I don't think it ever got to the level of Joel and Ellie in regards to the humor and the I guess the relationship. Like I didn't feel as close to them as I did to Joel and Ellie, kind of overall. But I was still invested, right?
Yeah.
And I still was invested in their relationship. I guess kind of tying back into gameplay, I felt like they were probably in Seattle, or early parts of Seattle, a little bit too long. A little bit.
Right.
I felt maybe it dragged a bit in regards to going about that kind of whole area, right? The whole kind of opening part. And there's probably a bit too much of like, okay, turn on the generator, open the gate, right? But it makes sense because you're still trying to kind of build that relationship with Ellie and Dina, right?
Yeah.
At that point in time, right? But no, overall, like I thought that the story kind of moved on to a good pace. I enjoyed kind of going out and hunting for all the members of the what was the initials
Firefly?
of the not the Fireflies? They were
Wolves.
the Wolves, yeah, the Washington Wolves, which
Yeah.
sounds like a lacrosse team, but it wasn't called that. Whatever the Federation, right? I enjoyed like headhunting the main members from that. Okay, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. Then I'm gonna go kill you. Where the fuck's Abby? I'm gonna go get Abby, right?
Yeah.
So I was super invested in that, especially the scene where with one of the girls I think they're in the hospital. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
she like, where's Abby? And then I think she tells her where Abby is, and then she just
Destroys her.
destroys
Yeah.
her, right? Yeah, I guess that's kind of my thoughts, right? Like I was like, the gameplay the whole way through, right? It kept me. Then the graphics and the sound and the world building kept me extremely engaged in the whole world.
Yeah.
So even when kind of the story would kind of go in its kind of lulls and kind of was a bit slow, I was still extremely engaged and involved. And then obviously kind of getting up to the point of when you kind of play as Abby, right? So
Yeah.
I guess what were your thoughts, Annie?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I totally enjoyed playing as Ellie. I thought it was really fun, especially when she gets the bow and arrow again. It's just so satisfying. But overall, yeah, it was very interesting to kind of see her. So, like, the thing about the first game is that you see Ellie grow from someone who's seemingly naive, wants to be taken seriously, eventually is starting to like find her way around in this world, starts to use a gun again, or not again, sorry, starts to use a gun, is getting really good at it, and then she's like, oh, I can defend myself now. And you especially feel that in Left Behind, because you're just playing as Ellie throughout the entire DLC. So you're like, at this point, she is totally starting to figure things out, and she's almost like enjoying it. You get the sense of that she knows she's good at it, so she's like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like, this is pretty good, and this is the new normal, right? So like, fuck it, like this is what I do now. And then during the second game, she's very one note, which is the one thing I didn't necessarily like. I get why she's like that. It's because of Joel's death, and so the only thing out on her mind is vengeance and revenge, and then the fact that she's frustrated that she can't find Abby because she goes to all these places. And I thought it was interesting that they used that one-noteness, that she's taking that frustration out on Dina, which is kind of interesting and creates tension there. And then when Jesse shows up, that creates even more tension.
Yep.
That was very interesting. I think that there could have been some more nuance to her. Now I'm now remembering scenes from the game again, and I guess that kind of works more effectively. But more of, okay, so like after that moment of when she finds the girl in the hospital and she beats the shit out of her,
Yeah.
and she gets back to the theater and she's shaking. She's physically like, she just doesn't really, she's trying to process what she just did, right? I think more of that, like just a bit more of that would have been, I don't know, it would have driven the fact that she is having difficulty making these decisions. And that especially gets driven home when she kills Mel. But it's okay, Mel was a bitch.
Yeah.
But no, like the fact that she killed her and then she realized that she was pregnant, right? So I think
Yeah.
that was something that that got driven even further, which I liked.
Yeah,
That was
because almost
great.
it peaked there, right? Like
Exactly.
it was building up there. Yeah.
But I think more moments of that she isn't necessarily comfortable doing this, but she's good at it, is something that I thought that could have been, I don't know, I thought that could have been like emphasized a bit more. But other than that, I thought like you definitely felt that she's spiraling. Like,
Yeah.
she's someone who's not in control of her emotions at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, following the story, I did like that you got that sensation that she was like spiraling because of like this trauma that she's experienced. And especially as you discover along the way with like flashbacks and stuff, like that there was no true closure with Joel. I just got, again, because I didn't get to enjoy like the visceral sensation of playing, I just got frustrated with her as a character, especially as things went on, because after that, like that scene that you described, which was really good, like when she, you know, beat that person to death and was shaking.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, okay, like she's gonna have this internal struggle where she wants to get vengeance because, you know, she loves Joel, but at the same time she is having this like, but am I doing the right thing kind of moment. And I thought that's where the game was gonna battle, but it never really hit home. Like, I felt like the more and more that she went through it, it was getting easier because of that frustration. Like, I want to get Abby, and it got to the point with me that I was just like, I could see that the thing that the team was trying to go for was that, like, revenge is bad because look at, like, you trying to take, like, they were trying to take revenge on Joel, and that's what led to your pain, and now you're trying to take revenge on them, and that's going to lead to more pain for their loved ones, and then it'll just keep going back and forth, right? And I guess, like, the thing was that it felt very much like, all right, I get it, and geez, like I understand why she's doing it, but I don't feel any more empathy. I don't feel empathy for her anymore, because I feel like she is turned into the bad guy. I'm like, I don't want to watch her spiral anymore. And no one was really good at, like, trying to stop her. Like, you had Tommy, who was like, went off to try and do this on his own.
Yep.
You know, so then she's going off to get Tommy, right? Like, that was the idea initially. Like, that was her excuse, right? Just to save Tommy. And I think that would have been really interesting to have that was originally what she wanted, and then was, when granted the opportunity, she got emotionally heightened and led to these, like, deaths, but then she kind of feels guilty. It's like, no, I need to go back to saving Tommy and just getting out, you know, like, this is going to cause more problems. But having that would cause a really cool conflict between, like, what she wants and what she thinks she needs. I mean, like, what she needs, which is she needs to get Tommy and get out, but what she wants in the back of her mind is revenge.
Yo,
right?
her main goal was revenge.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Like it starts off with, like, we're going to get Tommy, and abandons that almost completely. Like, we're going to kill all these people, and hopefully we find Tommy on the way. Yeah. And, you know, and they'll say that, and Dina will be like,
wasn't her main goal, though, first off, was to kill all the... Wasn't it primarily to kill the Wolf Federation?
Yeah, but then she was, like, convinced not to go, remember? And then... Or am I misremembering?
I'm pretty sure the initial mission was to find Tommy, which is why they kept trailing people to go find him. It's just that they ran into the people who killed Joel on their way to finding Tommy. And then I think, like, the way I saw it, at least, was that the front was they need to find Tommy.
Yeah.
The front for between Ellie and Dina is, like, just to keep Dina, you know, under control, we're looking for Tommy.
Yeah.
Ellie is looking for Abby.
Yeah. But that kind of makes it seem like Dina's a bit of a ditz. Like, it's kind of like, oh, she's like, I mean, it's so bloody obvious.
I think Dina knew what Ellie's intentions were as well, right? I feel like she did.
But then that makes it worse for like, because then Jesse shows up as well, right? Like, and all of them are like, yeah, we're here to help you, and it's like, how is no one there emotionally like nah, like this is bad, like you know what I mean? Like everyone was so pro this revenge rampage kind of thing, that with a little bit of like hesitation at the beginning, you know, it's like, no, you shouldn't do this, and then it was just like hours of everyone being like, all right, let's help you let's help you spiral even further, and then going, oh
Right.
no, I can't believe you're spiraling, you know what I mean? Like I found it, and this is again like, because I didn't get to play, I only got to witness it, so I wasn't as attached, because you know, when you're playing, you are that person,
Yeah,
right? So
but
you feel that
More of an experience.
yeah.
But I think your thoughts are justified, because I feel like your experience is it's still kind of story based, right?
Yeah.
So I think your thoughts are very justified.
Thank you.
I think you're welcome. I think I think kind of the main kind of what to counter that, I think, is that it all takes place during 3 days, right? From her getting there to her
Confronting
killing
Abby.
Mel, even,
Right.
right? That's all 3 days, right? And the build up for this was, I don't know, week or right? It's
Sure.
all fairly fresh.
Yeah.
Like from Joel dying to Ellie killing Mel,
It's probably been a week.
right? So for her to even process and evolve as a character at all during that time, it's difficult. Right?
Oh,
She hasn't
again,
processed, right?
No, but that's the thing. Again, I'm not blaming her. I'm blaming like the part of the story that I'm blaming is that she didn't have people truly trying to hold her back. Like
I
get
think
this.
maybe that
like,
was the idea. Maybe the fact that Joel isn't there anymore. He was the only person who would ever do that for her.
Yeah, but was he? Because he was also the one that
Yeah.
was like, at least in number one, was very much like no, we trust no one. This is a trap. You know,
Right.
like he was very much not that.
Yeah.
And Tommy was someone who was like him and Joel didn't get along. Remember in the first one, because of like the messed up shit that they did, and now Tommy's trying to create this community as a bit of like a compensation for how vicious these two were, right? And it's like, so for this to be, this is when I think that's when Dina would have been really good to use as like a foil of being much more gentle and much more, but no, it turns out like she decided to go with Ellie, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant. Like the whole thing just pisses me off. Like it felt very much like Dina wasn't used properly to show that she understood that Ellie was hurting. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
she wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I'm just disappointed in the sense that it's like it felt like, even though you're right that yeah, this did happen for in 3 days, and Joel had only been dead for like barely a week. So Ellie grieving, like 100%, like I agree that is how she would be acting, and that's how she would be feeling. So it's not her that I've really got an issue with. It's the way that the writers use these other characters to not help her. You know,
And that's a good point. And I think they Jesse. I think Jesse could have been used more.
yeah, they underutilized
Yeah, they
her
underused
for
Jesse
sure.
for sure. Yeah, and Dima as well. And Dima's motivation for going there was kind of strange as well, I found.
Yeah.
Right? Like, sure, Ellie's hot shit and she's really cool, but like to just get up and just like travel across country to likely go and I think,
Die.
Yeah, and like Dina has like, sure, she has combat training against the infected a bit as well here and there, right?
Dude,
But
Ellie saved her from the kids with the snowballs.
that's true. The snowballs. That was difficult on the
hard
the
mode?
hardest difficulty. Yeah,
The amount
these
of
bloody
times they killed you.
kids.
Those goddamn kids.
Yeah. No, like, and I think that makes sense. I think, I think Jesse, underutilized. Journey, Tommy, I didn't mind, kind of overall, but I think, like there could have been more people being like, hey, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
For sure.
Right.
I mean, I could almost understand because of like Tommy's history in the first one, where you kind of gather that it's like he's trying to be more peaceful. You know what I mean? Like I could almost see it being like, even though Joel is dead, that like Tommy is kind of like really really sad and slipping into a form of like of depression, and understanding that it's like we can't have more deaths, like almost like he, instead of like there's like when people experience loss, you can have either people lash out or people try to protect, right? Like because of this form of fear. So I feel like if Ellie was lashing out and Tommy was the one trying to protect, then I could almost be more on board with the level of cruelty that Ellie shows when going after these people, because there would be someone who is experiencing that same pain but who is more mature and or at least has a different perspective, so they're processing their grief differently, and then that's when you could have this like interesting like emotional kind of nuance to it, where it's like you're both hurting, one person's out for blood and this other person is trying to protect everyone because they don't want more blood. They don't want to lose more people that they care about, right? But instead, both of them are just both out for blood. You know?
Yeah, it could have been interesting to show the... I mean, this might be a little too much treading on the lines of the first game, but it could have been interesting to see Ellie and Tommy go to Seattle together.
What I was thinking was, I guess jumping a bit to the Abby part, a lot of playing as Abby while the gameplay was awesome, I did not care at all about Abby's friends. Abby grew on me later on in the game, but even then, never really cared too much for Abby. I understood her entire motivations, which we'll get to as well in a bit, but I think, honestly, I think that it was probably the wrong choice to play as Abby for that much. I think they could have probably cut that down, maybe even in half, and play maybe as half as Tommy and half as Abby. Potentially. Again, then you're kind of getting into too many characters, potentially, but even then.
I think it was more of the pacing. It's the fact that if we're jumping into Abby, I think it's the fact that you play as Ellie for 3 days, and then you go back to day one as Abby, and you have to go through these days again as Abby, get back to that moment, because now that moment, I don't know, it didn't feel like it had the same impact anymore.
Well, the
right?
transition, like so in storytelling, you'll have like a rising tension, right? And the point where there's the most tension, that comes just before the resolution, and then that's when you usually end the story, because then then people are usually more satisfied with the story because you feel that relief, like of, oh, whoa, that's how it ended. Wow, you know. So you have the three days of it happening, like where you're going with Ellie, and then it reaches the most tense point of the whole
the whole
fucking
thing.
Jesse
game.
gets shot in his face, and then
Tommy's
Tommy's about to get shot, and then you don't have a gun. You just throw that shit out.
Yeah.
And Abby's there, and then you're stuck there, and I'm like, wow, this is what's gonna happen, and then like, oh, now it's
Seattle day one.
now to Abby, it's like, no, that was the like what they should have done is, if they wanted to have Abby as like a thing that person that you get used to, and as a storyline to enrich this tense, like to add more tension to this point, what you have to do is intertwine it with Ellie's one, like you have them jumping back and forth. And then when you hit that point, that has to be the end.
I feel like they shied away from that because of the flashbacks. Because Ellie had flashbacks and Abby had flashbacks, and I think that just muddied the waters of everything.
I did not like Abby's flashbacks. The problem is you see these characters die, right? And you see them be part of Joel's murder, right? You see them die, and then like all the relationship with everyone, I didn't care at all.
I think the only thing that worked for me was Owen. I liked Owen.
Yeah.
I never really, I think it's because you see him die. It's like, okay, why would I get invested?
Yes, exactly. You're completely right.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, you're completely right, because it's like, because you see them die, and you have no emotional connection before, you can't make me sympathize in retrospect to them. You know, it's like,
exactly.
It's like that just doesn't work that way.
Work.
But that's why if they had intersliced it properly together, where you were jumping back and forth, then maybe you, when you are Ellie and you're gonna kill them, that would leave a really interesting mark on how you see Ellie, as well as like how I don't know, like because then as Ellie kills these people, then you'll be like, wow, like I kind of like this person. Or when she kills someone that you like, that as you've experienced with Abby, like, oh good, the person was
because it's like
it was nice
when Ellie kills, Mel or Owen or whoever. It's basically like Abby killing Joel. She doesn't know anything about Joel. She doesn't know anything about Ellie. She just knows the fact that this guy killed my dad. and fucked over everyone else. But she doesn't even care about that. It's just the fact that she killed her dad. Like, you think she would have gone on this quest if that doctor wasn't her dad? Unlikely.
Yeah.
Right?
And I actually really enjoyed that, the flashbacks to her, and you realize, oh shit, her dad is the doctor
Yeah.
that Joel killed. And I think the motivation entirely makes sense.
That works, yeah.
Actually, and Abby's motivation to kill Joel totally makes sense. You sympathize with it quite a bit if you think about it rationally,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And again, kind of looking back into why Joel died, like, Joel killed an entire hospital of fireflies and was the reason there isn't a cure for this virus.
Yeah.
Do you not think something's going to happen to him?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Like,
That's why
and
as
he got
soon
to
as
live happily ever after. Oh, God
That's
damn
why
it.
as soon as you play as Abby, I was like, there are fireflies. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's also why it pisses me off people that are upset about Joel's death. Like, he earned this.
Yeah.
Like, that's his receipt for all his
Yeah.
actions. It
Had it
totally
coming.
makes sense.
I mean, like, he worked hard for this death, guys. He put his soul and...
you need to kill with that machine gun at the end of the last game.
Oh, man.
You're killing like 40 people, and like,
Fucking massacre.
And I mean, like, the cruelty of like when you're seeing like the way that they interrogate people, like they what was it
Draw it
like
on
they
one
draw
and then-
one and the
yeah.
other one tells and then they confirm, then and then we'll let you go, and then they kill them
Both of
anyway.
them, yeah.
I'm like, how, in what world do you think these guys are the good guys? Like, they are so cruel. Like,
Yeah.
they're liars. Like, if this person was in an like, if this whole thing was real, right, and you know that you find your friends or families, like, bodies in this particular manner, and you know it's this guy, there is no doubt in my mind that you would be like, this guy's an asshole and has to go. Like,
Exactly.
he treats everyone so cruelly.
Like, I think with that example, most of the people where they did that to are people that are rapists, are people that are pure factions of murder.
Know that?
We don't know
you,
that.
You don't know that, but that's
They frame it that way, but that's
how
But
it
that
is
could be
framed.
how Joel is seeing them, right? Like, it's not like, he's not necessarily looking at everyone in that three-dimensional, like, this person is a person kind of way. He's like, they're evil, but they know what I need to know, and so I got to find out the information, and as soon as I do, they're useless to me.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole thing there as well. It's faction warfare, right? So it's they're the enemy,
Exactly.
regardless, right? So
yeah, but
Yeah.
but I can understand the whole us and them mentality. But I guess it's if let's say this was like a me against you kind of situation, and I don't know, to get the last cookie or whatever, and I hurt you for a cookie, you're still, regardless of we were against each other in this competition, you're still not going to look very kindly on the fact that I went over this line, you know?
Yeah.
I just think that's kind of the thing. Every situation has a different line that's crossed, and I feel like Joel did like a long jump over the line, you know? Like he
Yeah.
took a sprint and just launched himself over this line beyond just being like, I'm trying to survive, you're trying to survive. I think there were points where it was like, you're being needlessly cruel. But I guess that maybe that's because I don't really like torture at all. Like, it has been proven to be an ineffective thing in real life, but it's kind of glorified in this game as like, this is the way you do things to get, and it's like, oh, ew, no, I don't. I guess maybe it was a little visceral for me, and I didn't enjoy it, and maybe that's why I'm adding an extra layer of these guys are awful people.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a world that has pushed people to extremes that we never thought would be possible by these people.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I guess it makes sense. But yeah, I think it was the pacing. It also, like, it felt like this game had like 7 endings.
Yeah. I didn't mind the ending so much.
I like the ending. It
Yeah.
made perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's just that it took so much to get to the ending.
No.
Why did that happen?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, I gotta tell you. So,
No to which part?
no to
All of it.
All of it. No, not that much. The thing that I like, you're right that there were so many like natural ending points that would have still made, I think, a relatively satisfying game, right? But aside from Abby's thing, because they split it up poorly, and in Abby's like gameplay they had, or story, they had like a flashback within a flashback at some point, which was like, okay, too many flashbacks, like you can't do that. Like, that just does not feel like that breaks apart the pacing.
I don't know if that happened, but it
I
certainly
believe
felt
it.
that
It
way.
felt like a flashback. A flashback. Like,
Yeah.
who cares about Owen? Owen's a douche.
All of it was just so frustrating to watch. But because all of these points felt like the end and it could have ended naturally, like when they finally caught up to the end of Ellie's part where they have this confrontation, this what's it, like the standoff, right?
Yeah.
Which was the most tense part of at least Ellie's story, which would have been a perfect time to end it anyway. So when they finally catch up to that, nothing is resolved, and then the game keeps going, right? And by the time it gets to the end, I'm so fed up with both of them that I actually stopped the end. Like, it got to the end. It was the last scene, and I was like, I'm done. And I turned it off then.
You didn't watch the last...
The very last part. I was so tired. Like, so I don't really know who dies, and I don't know if they let each other go. I don't know any of it.
To tell Christian
I
what
was
the ending is?
so
Yeah.
tired. I was so tired by that point that I'm like, I don't care if both.
Where
of them
did you
live,
stop?
both of them
Exactly
die.
what scene?
Literally as they were fighting at the boat,
Okay.
Yeah, so...
and I just
Did you
didn't.
see Ellie get her fingers get bit off?
No, I didn't care. I
that
genuinely was
happened.
not invested anymore because I was so fatigued. I was so fatigued of like Ellie not coming to, like, I understand that she, like, I enjoyed like the part where like when they were in the farm, like that
Yeah.
like, at the
I
end.
Yeah.
thought that was the end.
I thought that was the end, and I'm like, oh, that's almost beautiful. Like,
I
she's
straight up
learning to
texted you because we were gonna meet, and I was like, "Yo, I'm almost done this game. Like, I am so close to the end right now."
Yeah, I thought that was
feel
the
it."
end as well.
And then he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "The farm. Like this. She's sitting on a tractor with her kid, reminiscing about her past, and is like, I'll tell you about this someday." I'm like, "That's the end, right? Credits." And he's like, "You're not at the end, bro." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And that would have been like beautiful and haunting, like it would have been like, it's depressing, but she made the choice to have peace. You know what I mean? Like I agree that like with Last of Us, it is about this bugger. What do you call it? Like it is kind of about hopelessness, but I like the idea of it ending where it is about hopelessness if we seek revenge constantly.
Yeah, it's like a
But if
somber
we-
note.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, yeah, you didn't get revenge, but at the same time, but you get to live.
Yeah, and you
So
have a
it's-
family now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I guess I'll let you know how it.
Yeah,
yeah,
So
please. Let him-
so Ellie lets Abby go at the end. So she's like.
Oh, then you never saw the scene with Ellie and Joel.
Yeah, so there's a huge Ellie and Joel scene at the end, right? I think it's fresher in your brain. I'm blanking on it a bit, but no, Ellie lets Abby go. And then what was it's fresher in your brain. The
So
Yeah.
none of it mattered.
So, no, it all matters though. That's what it is.
Kind of.
Ellie letting Abby go,
Yeah.
and not killing her,
So
and
essentially-
finally showing forgiveness is what the whole story is about.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
It's because it's a story of forgiveness,
yeah.
really, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
so-
kind of feel like they hit that almost on like at the farm. You know what I mean?
but she never had closure with
Joel.
with Abby. I don't know. Annie can go more into the
So
the Joel
when
scene.
you're in the farm, you get the flashback or like the,
The
PTSD,
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? Which is great, and then you
It
go
was
through the
emotionally
whole-
impactful. I was like,
yeah,
whoa, what?
it was
the-
terrifying
Yeah,
actually.
it
Yeah,
was very scary.
and that worked. It totally did. And then you go through all the shit. Then you get to the boats, and then you have a fist fight. And then shit gets rough, and Abby bites off 2 of Ellie's fingers. So it gets really crazy, and then she basically starts to drown her. Right?
Yeah,
Puts
yeah.
her head under, and then she's like very close to done. And then there's a flash of Joel on a porch. And then she lets her go, and she's like, "Get the fuck out of here," and they leave. And then there's still another scene after that. You think it'd be done, but it's not.
I'm glad I ended it.
She gets back to the farm. Ellie goes back to the farm. You go back to the house. It's been abandoned. No one's there anymore. Dina and the kid are gone. Everything, all the furniture's taken with them, or like it's just barren, except for the room where all of her music stuff was. So her music stuff is still there, and then the guitar is still there. So you pick up the guitar, and then you start to play it, except Ellie has 2 less fingers now, so she can't actually play the guitar anymore. And then it flashes to a scene between Joel and Ellie. that's the final scene of the game, which is essentially, it's essentially the night before the morning the game starts. So that night that they talk about during the beginning of the game, where like, you know, she gets like, then you see the scene too, right? Like with doing the dance and all that shit. Yeah. You basically are on the front porch and Ellie talks to Joel and she basically confronts him about his decision at the end of the first game. And she's like, you didn't even give me a fucking choice.
Yeah.
So you start to understand that this entire thing is more the fact that like she's frustrated that she never got to make that choice for herself.
Yeah.
And then Joel doubles down and is like, if I had to make that decision again, I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I already had that sensation.
Right. And then she was like, I don't know how I can forgive you for that, but I'll try. And then he's just like, I'd like that. And that's the end of that scene. And then she just leaves the guitar because she can't play it anymore, and then leaves. And that's the end of the game.
So, and that's where I think, again, when it came to the last level, I thought the gameplay in California was really cool, and it's a total scene change as well. I was invested. It was a new area. The enemies were cool. The enemies were that clan. I wish there was even maybe a bit more on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, like how you
they
could
were
like
awesome.
release their caged, clickers, and then they would just go after them, so you could reduce the amount of people you have to fight.
Yeah.
But I was in that kind of same boat as well. And when you're fighting Abby, and you're like, I was in a similar boat as well as you. It's like this probably could have ended a while ago. What's the point of this, right? Like I was a bit less invested on who actually ended up.
Yeah, it just got drawn out, man.
Yeah, but the last scene, in thinking about it, of Ellie forgiving Abby because Ellie could never forgive Joel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's how it worked, and it seemed like it gave Ellie closure with Joel finally. Was forgiving Abby for everything, right?
I think,
and that's how that's how I was satisfied by the ending, and how I thought it. As somber and sad it was for her family to be gone, she finally had closure with Joel.
Yeah.
That she couldn't have if she killed Abby. If she killed Abby, wouldn't have done anything.
No,
her letting
exactly,
Abby go.
That's exactly why that
gave
scene
her,
is pretty important.
Yeah,
but I think that's kind of like when she runs into them and they're strung up, you know, on like these like semi-cross kind of pole things, you know. When Ellie finds them, I like when she cut them down, I'm like, so do you forgive them? Like I had that sensation of like, do you forgive them? So I kept flopping between that she forgives them, no she doesn't. She forgives them, no she doesn't. You know what I mean? Like as she went through this, like Abby had the opportunity to kill Ellie, I think like twice, like flat out.
Yeah.
Like just ruin her, right? And kill Dina, you know? And didn't, you know, like Abby showed more growth to me than Ellie did, and that's what made that part frustrating. Was it was like, okay, like Abby's at Ellie's mercy, she could end it now, but instead she's saving her. I'm like, oh wow, this is Ellie's growth. And then just as they're about to make that escape, like I thought it would be nice, like if Ellie's helping them, like she thought she was there to kill Abby, but when she sees her strung up with like still protecting this kid, she's like, no, I can, like, I see Joel in you, right? So I saw that reflection, you know, like she sees Joel because Abby's protecting the kid, you know, it's the mirror, right?
Yeah.
So when she saves Abby, then I'm like, oh, cool, like this is a really neat way to kind of like wrap this up. Too. And then when she's like, no, I can't do this, and then attacks, at that point it felt so flip-floppy, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess like it makes perfect sense. What you said, it makes perfect sense that her forgiving Abby is her way of forgiving Joel as well, because they are kind of like a stand-in, like Abby and Lev are a stand-in for Joel and Ellie, right?
Yeah.
But I guess at that point I was so emotionally drained of this revenge-seeking back and forth, trying to learn about all that. By the time it got to that point, I was more impressed by the new scenery of California than I was by this story, and it kind of added. I think it, unfortunately, the scenery change added more emphasis on how much I was done with this story, that I when they were fighting, I'm like, I don't care. I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
Which is so sad, because when you mentioned that, like, it's like, yeah, that is really nice that it does have this, like, forgiving Abby forgives Joel, and I like that. But I wish that was kind of tied in a little bit before. Like, at that point, I was done. I was emotionally drained. I didn't...
Yeah, it took so long to get to that point. By the time you're there, it's like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
little
like,
bit.
please catch up, please.
I think we're talking like 5 minutes of in game. So I think we're talking semantics. I think we both have similar feelings.
Yeah.
Where they could have ended it there after she's punching her and trying to drown her. Yeah. Like, granted, it's intense as well, right?
Yeah.
The whole scenario, but I could totally agree with you that seeing her tied up as well and saving her. But I think it's just in regards to what they wanted to do with the flashback.
Yeah.
I think it's just pure dramatic tension of what would be better. Her drowning her and then stopping versus just cutting and letting them go. I think it's just more dramatic. In this.
Yeah,
in
I
this
think like
sense.
the execution of that scene worked. It's just that it should have happened maybe a couple hours before in the game, right?
Yeah. I think if they just if they change the pacing in regards to the days, the game didn't have to be as long as it is.
Yep.
If they could just cut it, honestly, everything Ellie-wise, I really loved. The stuff when she's at the house with her half Asian kid, beautiful, right?
I love that part.
Loved all that stuff. All the flashbacks to Joel, loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
The scenery change to California, loved all that stuff.
That rejuvenated me a little bit. Like, I was really excited.
Yeah.
Like, oh, California, nice.
Yeah.
But even me, like, I was ready for the game to be done as well, and it was kind of that last ending, that last bit that kind of brought me back and was like, oh,
Nice. Okay.
damn.
Yeah, that last scene definitely is impactful, and it does hit the right notes for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just the pacing. It's just that it was just so all over the place.
Yeah, it starts off so good, and it's going, and then you're playing as Abby, and it's kind of like teeter-totting, like going back and forth, and then it's not ending, so it's kind of going like that, and then it just kind of like shoots the stars again at the end, for me at least.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the ending.
I think that's a pretty good estimation.
I think what would have been really interesting is if you start off Ellie in her new life, and then what you do is you jump before Joel gets killed. That you jump. Well, this is really tricky because it's structurally it's better that Joel dies earlier on, so you don't have this false sense of like.
It's really hard. The whole pacing is really. I'm not
really envious of them.
No, not at all. They have a hard job to do, but it's just that is definitely the part that needed a bit more refining.
Yeah. Like maybe. Sorry, this just came to me, but like maybe it would have actually been really interesting if you start off with Abby and Lev, like just a little bit, just a hint of like, oh, who are these people? Why are we starting off with these guys, right? And showing a little bit of that relationship, like a little bit later on, so they have that semi resemblance to Joel and Ellie.
I did like their relationship
that the person can hook on to straight away, and then when they jump to Ellie and her new life, you can see like, because it's kind of like a reminder of this is how Joel and Ellie were through, and you're witnessing that through Abby and Lev, and then you're jumping to how Ellie is now, and you see that things are different with Ellie and Joel, and you're like more curious because you're like, no, that's how they were. Why are they like this now?
That's interesting.
And then because then when you're jumping back and forth, you have this sensation that. Like, I think that connection in your mind will be stronger, and you'll have more sympathy for when Abby starts losing people to Ellie, and you'll still have sympathy for Ellie because she lost Joel, So it's like Lev would probably have done the same for Abby.
Yeah, and I was getting invested in Lev and Abby's relationship. I almost wish they incorporated that a bit earlier on, maybe as well, right? Because I was starting to dig that. Yeah. And even like when they were talking about going to find the Fireflies, I'm like, sure, let's go find the Fireflies.
Exactly.
The game was getting a bit.
Which I guess they did find them, because at the end of when you go back to the main menu, the title screen, it changes. Like the title screen initially is the boat, right?
Yeah.
At the end, which is basically what you see.
Yeah.
If you go back to the title screen after you're done the game, it changes to the boat being on shore in a sunny place. Yeah. Presumably Abby's boat, they got to where they needed to go.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find also with Chris, I think if not playing the game as well, I think for a lack of immersion. I think I would probably have felt because I think our emotions were very close, and our thoughts on the story as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like you playing the game would have probably given you that little bit of more
investment,
yeah, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because of the gameplay just keeps you going.
Absolutely.
Right? The gameplay is so good, it just keeps you wanting to keep playing. I like watching a 20-hour game. I couldn't do that anyway. I don't think I could even really
That's hard.
do that without the.
But you've watched most of the PlayStation exclusives, right?
Oh yeah, but I watched it
go
cut
up-
out like
the movie version or whatever.
the movie, like quote unquote movie version. But
Yeah.
but luckily like these players, they edit in parts of gameplay that have some story building
That's
elements.
cool.
That's important.
So I got like a really full story
Yeah.
of it.
How long was it?
That's important.
I think it wasn't like, because they cut out all the gameplay part. I don't think it was actually all that long. I think it was but somewhere between 3 to 5 hours.
That's still long, like for a movie. Like that's.
Oh, yeah.
It's
No,
still
oh,
like
yeah.
that's
No,
like.
it's more of a TV show, if anything, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, because there's so many like small little dialogue choices in the middle, like of just not even events, but just you're just walking, and there's all these different like interactions between.
Yeah.
For example, like Abby and Lev, like there's just this different things that they talk about, or like, even kind of what Lev is going through. They reference that here and there, and then she's like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And then she's like, "Not really." And then they both you can kind of sense this tension slash like awkwardness, for lack of better term, between them, and that was kind of I think that's what made their entire relationship more endearing and more just like you wanted to learn. Like it's like, oh, I want to see how these people kind of grow with each other, because they're in such different places in their lives, but also similar in a way. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty interesting. It's definitely. I thought, yeah, I think their relationship. If I feel like if any in the entire game, besides Ellie and Joel, but then you kind of understand their relationship already going into it. But as a new relationship, I think Abby and Lev was definitely very interesting. And
Do you think in the new game that's what it'll focus on? It'll be Abby and
I don't
and
want
Lev?
there to be a new game. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, no. Yeah, I feel like it ended the story really well.
I'm kind of the same. I don't know if, as much as I love this game, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I don't know if I want a new game, because I don't think I want.
I think it would lessen the impact of this game.
Yeah, because again, like, what else are they going to do in this game?
Yeah.
In the new game to live up to
like,
the
where are they gonna go
the
from
implications
here?
of these, right? Like, where is it gonna go?
Like there's no cure unless they bring that idea back. But yeah, I don't know.
No, sorry. Like something that I'm curious about that this goes on to like games as a whole, right? Is if they do like Last of Us 3, like, do you really need there to be like, would you rather be like different characters in the same world? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I really like the idea of if this particular story is about the world that, like, if world is so well built, like in Last of Us, like, I wouldn't mind jumping between, like, oh cool, number one, like if number one is Joel and Ellie, number two is, I don't know, Ben and, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Like, or this one's a solo one, or this one's there's more characters, right? And you could even have them that they kind of come across each other, so you do see remnant like nods to how these other these previous characters that you've played as are going, because of like I think it helps fill out this world a little more, and that would have been, at least personally, I find that very, very interesting. But
Sure.
I feel like franchises and games are very scared, so they'd rather, like, cool, we put in this work to get these people attached to this character, so we're gonna have it that 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way to, like,
Yeah, it's
number
funny
20
because
will follow the same people, and it's like, how are these guys A, still alive, and B, like, not changing, or are changing so dramatically, or like in TV shows where every season, like, this character learns the same bloody lesson and then resets it. Season 2, episode 1 is like, oh, I forgot everything I learned in season 1. Let's reset and then just go through the same arc again. Like,
yeah, I think it's funny because when people got really pissed off about Joel dying and then got pissed off about playing as Abby, it's almost like these people thought that the first game was the Joel and Ellie game, and then the second game was like Joel and Ellie Part 2, where it's like, no. Last of Us.
Yeah.
And now these are the Last of Us, right? Like, I think that's something that is a very good point, and I agree completely that they've established a world well enough and we've spent enough time in it to be more curious about other places. I thought it was really funny. I don't know if you picked this one up. While you're playing as Abby, when you go to, I think it's like when one of the ships, when you go to one of the ships, there's a bunch of stuff you can collect. And in one of them, there's all these notes. Did you read all the notes that you come across?
Some of them.
I read almost all of them,
Oh,
right?
you
'Cause
did.
I thought that one of the best things that they had done is to give you stories about other people that you don't even know about, but just through notes. Like, it made it, I thought that was brilliantly done. It's just that you just feel like, oh, yeah, this is lived in. Like, there are people who were here. There will people who will be here. You know, like, it just felt... And the fact that when the character reads the note, they kind of give a slight comment about it. Or it's like some of the notes were basically when the pandemic was just beginning.
Yeah.
So they start commenting of like, oh, shit, I would not want to be here at the beginning of the outbreak. Whereas they're here in like the peak of the outbreak. But,
Yeah.
you know, that was really fun. And I thought one of the most funny things was that there was a boat that was supposed to go from, because they're in Seattle, it was supposed to go from Seattle to Vancouver.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, the outbreak isn't as bad in Vancouver. Which is funny.
Parallels.
Yeah.
Which is
wow.
very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. And
That's
kind of
cool.
fun.
I didn't know that.
And so
That's
yeah,
funny.
it just it makes the world a lot bigger. So as you were saying, like if they were to make a third one, which I don't think it's necessary because based on the track record of the two, they're probably going to go with characters that they've already established and introduced. But if they were to kind of like Uncharted Lost Legacy, where it's like Uncharted but completely new characters.
Wait, it was same characters, or not same, but it was supporting characters.
Supporting characters, yeah,
which I think is a good way to go.
Yeah, but that's a great way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think what will be interesting is you play as Dina, and I've called her Dima the entire time. It's been a month and it was in 3 days. It was I binged it and it's all out of my brain now. Plays as the kid. In like 20 years down the line,
That's
you can have Ellie can be there maybe
as
in
an
some
old
way
woman,
as an
yeah.
she'd only be like, I guess she would be
40s?
like 40s, right? She wouldn't be too old.
All right, older.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a badass now. She would still be a
Yeah,
badass.
so I think
then.
that would be kind of cool, right? Like, in regards to Abby, I think Abby's only interesting if Ellie's there. Because I feel like Abby isn't a strong enough character to have her own game.
But with Lev.
with Lev,
Even
though.
with Lev, especially with the backlash that this game received.
Oh yeah, with the backlash.
The backlash,
Yeah.
I don't think they
it
would.
would be ballsy.
It would be ballsy,
Yeah.
but I think it would be so negatively received by whether that's right or wrong. I just think that with and everyone that when we I think enjoyed the game a lot, right? I think
Yeah.
to certain
Yeah, it was
degrees.
I mean, you guys did
Yeah, I guess you
I
partially
watching
enjoyed watching it.
parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think a consensus is that the worst part was playing as Abby. Right?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's kind of a consensus.
And that's part and part because of the pacing of it.
Yeah.
If they paced it out a little bit better, it would have maybe been a little bit better. I don't know. Like, we don't know. But I think it would have been a little bit better received. I like the end. Like, I think day 3 with Abby was fun.
It was fun, and then you find out Tommy's the guy that's shooting you.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
That was
I like
cool.
that. And actually, as you guys were talking about the tension of when you get to the theater at the end, when you get to that part, I'm like, oh shit,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? And just because I want to know what's gonna happen next, right?
Yeah.
So I was actually that whole part in regards to fighting Tommy and then going to the theater.
Yeah.
Also,
I was really into that.
Yeah, even in that same part when you eventually do catch Ellie and you have to beat the living shit out of her, I felt really bad.
Yeah, I was
like-
in that part as well. I understood what they were going for, but I'm like, the whole
Yeah.
point is like, even with Abby, I'm like, I don't really enjoy playing as Abby. I want to play as Ellie. I don't want to beat up Ellie. Like, it's a point where I understood what they were doing, but
I didn't want to beat up Ellie.
Yeah.
but that was the point. So
Yeah,
I guess
so-
it worked.
As a viewer, I was happy that I was okay with that.
Yeah,
I think-
totally makes
no.
sense, right? But I'm like, oh, I've been in Ellie's shoes, and like, gee, I
No,
know she's
actually,
I
actually,
know
no. As a
she's-
viewer, I didn't want Ellie to get beat up then, but again, at the
Afterwards,
end of
yeah.
afterwards,
Like,
I
yeah,
was
she
like,
didn't
yeah,
learn.
okay.
Yeah,
She didn't learn shit.
It's our biases though, right? It's that of us playing as these characters, of
Absolutely.
these flawed characters. They can kind of do almost anything, and we'll still be on their side,
Yeah.
and on their team, right? That's the problem of doing what they did of having Abby kill Joel, right? Like even though Joel's flawed and kind of an asshole, he's Daddy Joel.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
And you see all these positive memories through Ellie that make you more upset at the whole thing happened. And
Also, another thing, when I was playing the game, Lids was watching and she was like, "Are there dinosaurs in this game?" And I was like, "No." And then cut to like 3 hours later, and I'm like, "Holy shit, there's a dinosaur in this game!" that was hilarious.
I think my favorite part of the whole game, are the flashbacks with Joel and Ellie.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah, where they're in the space shuttle.
yeah.
Oh, that was just so. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, no, that was done so well that even as a viewer, I was almost like I was glued to the screen.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is so beautiful. What
Oh,
a beautiful
yeah.
moment. Like
It's a beautiful game. It's a very pretty looking game.
And it's cool because I didn't see that goes back to the previous whatchamacall, season 2.
The Last of Us Part 2, or
Last of Us
1,
Oh,
the
Left Behind?
Left Behind.
Left Behind, that's it. Like because it links back to that, like when she's imagining things, right? Imagining how the game is. Like because I didn't know that. Even though I didn't know that, that's the rocket ship scene still had such an emotional impact of like, wow, this is so
Yeah.
beautiful and what a sweet gift. And yeah, no, like I it was done very well. I really enjoyed that, and it makes me feel better that this was actually something that was done in a previous game, like the previous.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
gives it more weight.
Yeah,
And just like a fun nod too. So that was good.
cool.
So I guess what would you score the game?
Oh,
Out of
we
10.
have to.
I think so because there's so that I think it's
Yeah, I think it's I'll give it a 9.
9.
Out of
10? Yeah.
12.
a 9 out of 12. You know,
We've
on
changed the
on
game.
on the scale of 12, the
Yeah.
very common. Yeah.
9 out of 12, perfect score.
Yeah. I'm probably right there. I'd probably maybe like 9.4 because of the things I didn't like. The things they did, there's things I didn't like, obviously, right? But
Yeah.
they did so many things so well that I think few games have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the negatives can definitely be pardoned by the positives.
yeah.
There were so many positives.
For you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, the gameplay is large. Like the gameplay, 10 out of 10. Because
Oh yeah.
it accomplished everything.
Gameplay, graphics, sound,
Acting.
Yeah, acting, everything.
Oh, the
yeah.
that was amazing. The acting, hands down, brilliant. Like
Yes.
like the capture, the expressions that they could.
Yeah, and
Dude,
also like the fact
amazing.
that people are getting pissed off at the actor who played Abby for her character decisions
Why?
is ridiculous and
Yeah.
just
But I find the people that hate the game for those reasons are the people that would also go online and bully the
Probably.
actor that
Yeah.
plays the game.
That's insane. Like
Yeah.
it's
dude,
like
yeah, the
like
death
when,
threats, they're bad.
Well, it's so funny because it's like when I was watching like with Game of Thrones, like Joffrey, like you hated that character, but I was so impressed with that actor and
Yeah.
how viscerally I hated that character. It's like, wow, what a good actor. Like, wouldn't you think the same thing with like Abby as well? It's
Yeah.
like the fact that this actor that was like did the motion capture and the voice and all that stuff, right? They did the motion capture as well. right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like that she was so good at her job that you fully believe that this character, like you have an emotional impact on this character so much that you dislike them. you know?
Exactly.
It's like that's such a good job as an actor. Like that's I don't know. Sorry, that's just a little side.
It's true, but I feel like a lot of people like
They put them
play
together.
But they also didn't play the game, man. Like so many
Yeah.
people, like the score was like 4 out of 10 on Metacritic the day it came out. Right?
Oh yeah, that's bull.
like
yeah.
So it's like clearly they got to the part that Joel died and they're like, fuck this game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I saw so
Or
many
bombed
videos
it
of these like
beforehand, yeah.
12-year-old kids just being like, "Oh my god, this story is so crap," like all this stuff, and it's just like you obviously didn't play the first game, or you don't understand. I don't know. I think a lot of it was just the following the consensus, right? Reading the spoilers beforehand, or knowing that this game is gonna be bad, so then just believing that yourself, right?
Yeah,
and not
yeah.
forming your own opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah. I mean, because I only experienced the story, I still really enjoyed moments in it. And I think that's the part that I can't, fault at all. I think the pacing ruined the whole structure of it, but clearly I got too tired to just end finish
The last 2 minutes.
The last 2 minutes. The last 2 minutes, because
pretty much literally. Yeah.
well, and I could see the scroll bar. I think that's the thing. I was just so tired.
Right. Yeah,
I was
that's
just
another
so
thing.
done, and I'm like, I guess because of all the natural points that I thought it would end, that would be satisfying. Like, it sounds like it was still satisfying, which is as an ending, and that would have been really nice to experience. So shame on me. But the pacing ruins the experience for me.
Yeah.
But not enough that I didn't appreciate watching it. You know what I mean? I still appreciated going through it and having some of these character moments and going, oh, this was a really beautiful feeling and a really beautiful moment and a really cool experience. And I did enjoy that. So I don't know what I as a viewer could.
No, but I feel like that
Score
makes
it.
sense. And being able to play the game, it gets you through those slow, the slog and the pacing a bit, right?
Yeah.
For me at least, right? All of the times where I'm like, I don't want to play as Abby anymore, but the
Yeah.
gameplay is still so fun.
Yeah.
That you're like, okay, I'll just keep going. I think that's why I played it so quickly. I'm like, I just want to play as Ellie. I just want to play as Ellie. I just want to play as Ellie.
Yeah.
So I want to get to the end of day 3, right? I think that's what made me want to play it so much. Was the gameplay was so good, but also I kind of wanted to know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, it's a good game overall. They did a good job. It was a really hard game to, I'm sure, put together, but also as you were even talking about the structure of the game and how they would have paced it out, I don't know how they would have done it, to be honest. Based on the story that they wanted to tell, I have no idea how they would have done it. So I guess they did.
And that's using the same characters that they introduced. It's
Exactly.
pretty hard. Yeah. Pretty hard.
Especially when you're on paper, the parallel timelines probably make a lot more sense. But when you're playing it and you're seeing the lack of interest you have in these side characters,
Yeah.
because they're gonna die,
Yeah.
right? It may be hard to see on the
exactly.
the cutting room floor beforehand, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's probably more of in hindsight or looking back.
where it's
and
too
going,
late,
oh, shit.
yeah.
Well,
Especially with a game this large, you have to set everything in play,
For sure.
Yeah.
right? So
well, that's literally what we've been learning with writing a comic is we'll write it down and be like, this works and the emotional changes are fine, and then Annie went through the painstaking process of drawing the whole thing out, and we were like, oh no, this does not work, because you need to see it in the medium it's intended for.
Yeah.
Before you can really make a judgment, which is so frustrating if you're making a production this large, because you must have it down to a T.
Nailed that shit.
yeah.
Which is hard. It's really hard.
Especially,
before you see
being
it.
a visual medium, and then you get everyone, you shoot all the actors and all that shit, and then you see it in a flow together, timed out, and you're like, oh yeah, that does not work as well as I hoped it would. Which is, it's just one of the struggles of doing this.
I think what's cool is that we all like the choice of killing Joel, which is is interesting. As much as we debate over a few things, the fact that we all were like, that worked very good. Is because I think that's the number one thing people don't like, right? Is that
that was earned.
Yeah, very well earned. Very
yeah. That's funny. Yeah, come at us.
Yeah, come at us, haters.
Yeah.
Call in.
Come at us, 3 people listening to this right now.
Yeah, right.
Stuck around till
we're not live, Andy.
Bring it, Paul. We love you, Paul.
Our one listener, Paul.
Yeah.
Our one listener.
followers,
This is all for you.
Yeah, we only have Paul listeners named Paul.
Exclusive to
Our
Paul's.
Paltreon, please.
That's great.
Time to wrap it up, I suppose.
Yep.
Yeah. That'd be a good time to do it.
Any thoughts on the next podcast?